Hi everyone, welcome. Today's check-in is with this unusual system here. The whole basis of this system getting set up was that we wanted to see what we could do about letting the worms try to break down material that I had classified as being clumped together and stuck together, pretty much dried together as little boulders. I had a whole tray's worth of this stuff. And it was sitting there, sitting around, nothing going on about it. And I figured, you know what? Let's let the worms take a stab at it. And over the past 150 plus days, they've not really done a whole lot with it. I've done my best to keep the entire environment pretty damp and cozy for, comfortable worm occupation. And we started the system with a pretty small number of worms. I think the numbers have grown, which is nice to see too. But either way, this is the castings boulders bin, and they're due for their next feeding. It's only been 10 days since the last check-in, but I've been managing to get back to the beginning of the line quick lately. So they're up next, and I've got time. So let's give them their next feeding. Let's get to work. So I created one of my famous information boards about the system to show the system's age, the times fed, the interval since the most recent feeding, which was 10 days ago. And the stuff we're giving them today is not going to last, if you ask me. Watermelon is, 90% plus moisture, basically. So they'll nibble away at that over the next few days, and within those few days, I'm sure the stuff will just be gone. We've been adhering to a interesting feeding pattern here, which I refer to as ping pong feeding, treating the alternation of the feeding zone from one side to the other. So this is the side where we last fed, and there's signs of it showing. We threw some paper in here, which we could set aside, and we threw some food in here. And the hope was that the worms would take an interest and come over to check out what we had laid out for them. I could see this was some of that colorful bedding that I was using for a while there, and of which I have a pretty good amount still remaining that I need to at some point come up with a interesting idea for. But you can see the cardboard that was laid in here, the green and red and white bits of cardboard are remaining from the last check-in. As for the foods, well, if there's still stuff in there for them to be interested in and that they're still eating, well, let them continue with that. What we've got for them should pretty much get their attention, if you ask me. Watermelon is right up their alley. So once we ping pong over to the other side now to add the next feeding to the proper location, we're going over to the opposite edge to add the yummy watermelon. And over there is where we would have fed 2 feedings ago. And I guess there's always that possibility that there's still some worms hanging out in this stuff over here, enjoying whatever it is that was fed 2 feedings ago. And the material surrounding different chunks of bedding leftovers is really fine, smooth flowing stuff. Lots and lots of worms hanging out in this stuff too. So I'm thinking, leaving this stuff over in the old previous feeding zone at this point, considering all the bits of leftover bedding that is left in this stuff here, I think they're good from the perspective of bedding. So we're going to leave them with what's already in there. In this material from the last feeding zone, we're going to kind of hijack this stuff because I didn't really come prepared with any bedding, really, come to think of it. So we're going to use that as the foundation for giving them today's yummy feeding of delicious watermelon rinds. And this does seem like a nice opportunity to help blend the stuff together And I almost forgot that this is the castings boulders bin, where we've been really wanting to see this material get smaller and finer, and all these little boulders, each of these little chunks that you see everywhere, are what I refer to as boulders. And I guess I was under the impression that the majority of this stuff would break up almost immediately from touching it, but that first piece that I picked up as an example, and now this piece here too, is so tough that it won't even budge from me trying to crush it or break it up. So not all the material in here is subject to the most recent method of trying to help it break down, which is me crushing it with my hands. Not all of it wants to give, but I guess what's nice is that a good much of it does readily give. So I'm going to try to keep to this idea of, during each check-in with this system, just giving a few handfuls of material a good rub to see if I can help break apart and fragment boulders into looser material. And I got to admit, the little bit of that we've done already so far is starting to show, I think, if you ask me. That's the way it looks to me. But maybe I'm just I'm an optimist at heart. Alright, let's get on to feeding them their delicious watermelon treat and letting them getting back to work, because there is a good bit of work to be done here. The plastic coverings were, perhaps not on thoroughly enough. I think I'm going to come back in on the end here, and this plastic that was out here is going to get used to cover the entire top surface of the system. Try to keep the moisture levels in here nice and cozy. I'm thinking all this moisture that comes in with today's feeding of watermelon rinds, that good bit of moisture is going to be a shame to lose if we were to allow it to evaporate away and exit the system rather than letting it stay locked in. So that little itty bitty bit of bedding material that I dropped in underneath the watermelon seems kind of skimpy. I'm thinking, a system that's this age, 174 days, well, they got a long ways to go. Perhaps we can come in here with some lovely leafy bedding. I've got this box here with some leaves in it, and I really like the idea of dropping a whole bunch of leafy matter right on top of all this frozen watermelon rind, and I got a feeling that that's going to become a really popular spot for the worms to want to hang out in. Well, perhaps I gave them a little bit more than I thought I was going to. It just kind of came pouring out, but I'm not worried. I'm not worried about it. I think the worms are going to like it. I don't think there's anything to be concerned about. They're going to move right in. They're going to go over there because they're going to want to check out that watermelon. Oh, sweet, juicy, moist feeding, which, at this point, since I've kind of got an excuse, my glove is a little bit soiled, I'm thinking, oh, what if we were to come in here with the spray wand and add some moisture? I could see there's already a little bit of something stuck to the tip of this. So maybe while we're dropping in the moisture, we can clean the gloves, clean the spray nozzle, and once it's all said and done, everyone will be ahead of the game. Even though we're giving them a whole bunch of really lovely chunks of watermelon full of moisture, once they start thawing out, they're going to really release a whole bunch of moisture. I don't see any harm in giving them this extra little bit of water, because these leaves are going in dry, and I got a feeling this is going to turn out to be a pretty popular spot. I think next time we come back in here, we're going to find this to be full of wormies hanging out, enjoying the leafy matter that's in there. pretty damp now, and it'll just keep getting damper. Damper? Is that a word? More damp. Definitely going to get more damp as all that watermelon starts to release its moisture content. And I think for the stuff out here, well, we're going to stick with what we've been doing. Bring back the paper coverings and let it continue as such. This has just been coming back every time as our little marker to show where we last fed, which is also usually pretty obvious, but whatever, we're going to stick with it, I guess. Why not? But that's it for the check-in, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.